Now the aux in and the USBs are really important because the aux in can be used for music that is from, say, an iPod, which doesn't use Bluetooth. And the USBs are important because we can use them for storage and Android mirroring. What we're going to show today in this video is how to plug everything into the screen, and also how we're going to route it so that it's in the glove box here, so that you can use it easy and not have it around everywhere for it to be untidy. So now the first thing we're going to do is remove these 4 covers, which will expose the 4 screws to remove the Android screen. Now after removing the covers, we can get our AUX 25 screwdriver and unscrew these 4 screws. After you've unscrewed these 4 screws, you can just lift the screen out and tilt it back. Now from here, we can see the connections that we'll need for the aux in. We'll need the aux in L and the aux in R. However, the connections for the USBs are inside the screen, so we need to remove these 4 screws to get access to the screen. Now after having exposed the screen, we can see the connectors. Now we are going to be using this 6-pin connector and this 4-pin connector for USB plugs respectively. Now if we check the plugs, we can see that one of them is the 6-pin and one of them is the 4-pin, so it's imperative that we do not get these mixed up when we're installing them. Now installing these is really easy. You just need to get the connector and just push it in to the socket. Just place it first and then just push it until it clicks. Like so. And the same for the other. Now we can route the USBs through the hole in the sat-nav screen. Now having done that, we can now screw the screen back into the frame. Now, after you've screwed the screen back on, we can now connect the aux in cables. Pretty self-explanatory, red to red, white to white, and on the aux in. Now that we've connected the USB cables and the auxiliary port, it's time to remove the glove box. Removing the glove box may sound hard, but it's actually really easy. First 2 things you need to make sure before you start is that you've emptied out the glove box. My car already has these chargers in here, which are fine, which we'll keep in here, but you'll need to make sure that it is empty and also that the seat is as far back as it can go so that you have the most space here to work. Now the first thing we'll need to do is to remove these 2 screws. These are AUX 25. So you remove those 2 screws, this panel at the bottom should just come out. You can try and grab it from under the light here. Once you get a bit of space, just pull it out. It can be a bit violent, and if this side piece comes out, just get a bit of a whack, it'll go back in. Take out the glove box. We'll need to remove these 2 screws, these 2 screws, and these 3 screws down here. You also need to take out these 2 screws right here. Now after having removed the screws, just open the glove box and it should just come right out. Don't pull it out because there's still this cable connecting to the glove box light, but there is still plenty of travel room for the cable to go. Doing this connector is quite simple. Just press on it and it should just come off like so. And if you have a USB cable in here, if yours is a later model, you can just take them out and you should be able to just move the glove box out of the way. Going back to the screen, we need to find a way to route the USBs to the glove box. Now there's a little space just down there where we can route everything. You can see my hand here. We can route the cables into the glove box. So now when you've routed the 2 USB cables and the auxiliary cable back into this spot, we can put the glove box back in. So now bring the glove box back. We can connect the interior light to the glove box. And it clicks in. Put it in, push. Perfect. And we can route all the cables through this hole right here. Having passed everything through it, we can just place the glove box back into its original position. After having placed it back into place, we can put all the screws back in. I think there's 8 in total. Now once you've put all the screws back in, don't forget the ones at the bottom, you can now put this plate back in at the bottom. After having put the plate back in place, we can screw these 2 screws back on. Now that we've screwed that on, we can go back up here and then we can open the glove box, and then we can see that the USB cables are relatively short and we don't really want to pull them through anymore, because otherwise we won't be able to open this up for when we do the rear camera. But you can see that the AUX cable is massive. It's humongous. Now, it's no problem if you want it this big, but me personally, I don't need it this big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some of the cable up from here, and I'm going to close it together using one of the cable ties that we got in the package. After having done that, it's time to test. So now, the way to test this is, first of all, putting the ignition on. Doesn't need to turn the car on. Turn the AUX on. And what we could do is go into the settings. Here, the thing. And we can see here that you can choose also which USB cable you'd like to be the main one, which is good. Now, the way to test it is to go into AUX, and then you'd plug something into the AUX to test it. But to test the USB, what you do is you go to File Manager. You see here it has the USB 2. As we saw from settings, you can change which USB you have as USB 1 and USB 2. So we'll check the one that it has now. And what I have here is a 128 micro SD card plugged into a converter, which goes into the USB. So we should see a 128 gig SD card once I plug this in. And now plugging the USB in to the connector, you can see it says device installed, and it shows the device connected using this symbol. And we can see here 128 gigs, which is perfect. And now to test the other port, we go into the settings, devices, you go current selection, no, you go change, sorry, then you go USB 1, and when we go to the file manager, you can see USB 1 has nothing connected. But now, if we take the SD card out of the port and plug it into the other one, you can see that it will read it, and it has 128 gigs, so we can verify that the USB is working both on USB 1 and USB 2. After you've verified that both the USBs are working, we can proceed to finish the installation. Now, what we'll do now is install the 4 screws around the head unit. And after you've put the screws in, you can proceed to put the covers back in. And after you've put the covers in, that's it. We've finished the job. And there's only one thing left to do, I think, which is the rear view camera. And apart from that, it's all finished. The screen has been working very good, I must say, for the last month that I've used it. And I would honestly recommend it. Don't forget, it is linked in the description for you to buy. But that's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.